As I was walking through the rice fields recently here in Bali, I was reminded of this story about the Chinese farmer, since there was farmers in the fields, obviously. And I want to read it to you and then give you my comments, my thoughts on the situation, or not the situation, on the story itself, and maybe give you a new perspective and a way to look at life, because I very much like this story, and I had forgotten about it for a while. So yeah, it's called The Story of the Chinese Farmer. It's written by Alan Watts. It's quite short, and I think you'll get the point of the story quite quickly. Once upon a time, there was a Chinese farmer whose horse ran away. That evening, all of his neighbors came around to commiserate. They said, "We are so sorry to hear your horse has run away. This is most unfortunate." The farmer said, "Maybe." The next day, the horse came back, bringing 7 wild horses with it. And in the evening, everybody came back and said, "Oh, isn't that lucky? What a great turn of events. You now have 8 horses." Again, the farmer said, "Maybe." The following day, his son tried to break one of the horses, and while riding it, he was thrown and broke his leg. The neighbors then said, "Oh dear, that's too bad." And the farmer responded, "Maybe." The next day, the conscription officers came around to conscript people into the army, and they rejected his son because he had a broken leg. Again, all the neighbors came around and said, "Isn't that great?" Again, he said, "Maybe." The whole process of nature is an integrated process of immense complexity, and it's really impossible to tell whether anything that happens is in it is good or bad, because you never know what will be the consequence of misfortune, or you never know what will be the consequences of good fortune. I find it a very nice reminder in life that you don't really know if something is going to be bad or good for you. It might seem bad in the moment, and then it turns out to be the best thing that ever happened, or gives you a very good life lesson, which makes your life so much better. Or the other way around, it seems very good in the moment, and you're very much enjoying it, but then it turns out to be something of negative impact in the long run. And then at the same time, maybe in a year it's something bad, but then in 2 years you actually learn something from that first moment that seemed good, and then it's actually good again. So it's so complex, like you said, that you don't really know whether it will be good or whether it will be bad. I think it's just what you make of it oftentimes. And I was reminded of it because it was this farmer guy, and he was picking rice in the fields, and he obviously, the story is about a Chinese farmer, so that reminded me of it. But also I was thinking, like, I'm glad I don't have to do that kind of job. And for me, that maybe would not be good in the moment. But for him, at least he has a job, Maybe he's very happy doing that job. Maybe he thinks this is good for him. And for me, I think it would be bad. And I don't really know. I don't think that's an accurate interpretation of this story. But it's also what I was thinking in the moment as I was reminded of it. It also reminds me of another thing I heard. I think it was a research. I don't fully remember which one. I can't cite it, but they did research and asked people, if these people with different kinds of bad experiences in life, like really, really, really bad things, of people dying and horrible things happening in their life, and they asked them, if you could, would you have not made it happen? If everything that happened since then would be reversed and you would go back to that point and it wouldn't have happened, would you actually reverse whatever happened in your life, even though it was horrible? 95% or something. I think it was more than 90% of people, very close to 100% of people said they would not ever reverse whatever happened to them. Which shows that it seems bad in the moment. It might hurt very badly. It might seem terrible. But at the end of the day, it still makes you who you are. It's still very difficult to tell whether it will lead to something good or bad. Because apparently for them, it led to so many things in their life happening that were good, that it was worth going through, you know? But in general, I also think it's very much dependent on the way you look at things. You can always find something bad in a situation. You can always find something good in a situation, even if it's the same exact situation. I've had situations where I'm in pain, for example. Like I'm something in my body is hurting. I don't fully remember when it was. I remember that I was in pain one time and I was like hurting a lot. And it was like constant hurting throughout the day. And at first I was annoyed because obviously being in pain isn't always very nice. But then I kind of shifted it into two things which were both positive, which was, first of all, having constant pain makes you a lot more present than not having it, because there's always some like sensation that you're feeling, so it makes you aware of your body, and which being aware of your body makes you more present. So I turned it into that, and at the same time I also turned it into a challenge for myself to, you know, learn to deal with pain, to like be able to sit with constant pain throughout the day and not complain about it and not look at it in a bad light. It just is, you know, the pain just is, and it will go away. It's just happening. So might as well just look at it like that and try to learn to deal with it. So yeah, in that sense, it very much depends on how you look at things happening in your life. For example, and this is quite an interesting one. I went on a date one time with a girl, and she kept complaining about people looking at her or being like creepy, or like some people winked at her and stuff. And she found it creepy and weird. And I'm not saying that it isn't. And yes, sometimes that was actually happening. But also at the same time, she was very much focusing on that these people around her are looking at her, or that they are doing these things. And you know, especially if you look at these people as they are looking at you, there's a higher chance, obviously, of maybe them doing something. And then another time I went on a date with another girl, and I asked her about it, you know, do you experience that as well? Well, not necessarily as well, I wasn't saying this, I wasn't comparing with her. But she said she just never focuses on that. Obviously there's worse situations where you can't really deny the fact that it's happening. But she said she just doesn't look at these people, and she just ignores whenever somebody's looking at her, or maybe doing something weird from a distance. I don't know. And she was fine, and she just never really notices it because she doesn't focus on that. She just focuses on whatever she's up to, and it made her life quality a lot better than someone who's just only focused on these negative things happening around you. It doesn't mean you shouldn't acknowledge bad things, but try to find the good in the bad moments, because you never know also what will come out of them. You never know if they will end up good or bad. It's very difficult to predict life, you know. I very much recommend just reading that little story once in a while to remind you of the fact that life is so extremely complex that you don't know whether what you're going through is bad or good. You might feel bad or good in the moment. Just be reminded that maybe it is good, maybe it is bad. You'll never really know. It's like in the story. First, the horse runs away. At that moment, it seems bad. But then it comes back and brings 7 horses. At that point, it seems good. Then your son climbs on the horses that came with him, and then the son falls off and breaks his leg. At that point, it seems bad. But then people come around to take people into the army, and he doesn't have to go. At that point, it seems fortunate. And that's just how life will continue going. The thing that seems bad turns into something good, and the thing that seems good turns into something bad. Sometimes it's good, 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 and then bad, bad, bad. But at the end of the day, everything will keep changing. That's for sure. So, might as well enjoy the good moments and enjoy the bad moments. Try to find the good in the bad moments, but just enjoy life, whatever happens, any situation. I think if you want to follow along with my reflections, my thoughts, things I'm learning, things I'm experiencing in life, subscribe, feel free to subscribe. I will just be documenting everything so that people who need to hear the same thing, need to learn the same lessons, people who need to be reminded that you should just live and enjoy life. All of you, whoever you are, you can watch these videos and hopefully you get something out of it. At the same time, I'm also doing this for myself, for my past self who needed these lessons and has learned these lessons now, but also for my future self who might need a reminder, looking back on what life was like now and learning from myself again. And at the same time, this is like such a cool thing to be able to look back on. Look back on literally the state of mind I was in. I can look back on this in 2 years and still look at myself, look how much I've changed, look how much my thoughts have changed, look how much the words I use change. It'll be fascinating to see. I hope I continue doing this. I never know, Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But for now, this is what I plan to do. I plan to update you, update me, myself, my future self, update the people around me, whoever wants to watch this. So, yeah. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.